Greetings, glitter goddesses. This is part 4 of the baby book I'm working on. And I'm going to show you how to stick the books together. So the first thing that you're going to do is I'm going to run tape along all the flaps. And I'm going to run 1/2-inch tape along the score line. And then I'll come back through and I'll run 3/8-inch tape along the edges. And this is along that first score line that's at 1 inch. I remember the first opera I ever heard that I was able to hear it, I guess, you know, where I was of an age where I heard it and was like, what is that? And, you know, that I wanted to know more about it was Aida. That was the one. And so, you know, my mom, she found a copy of it and we listened to it, and then she found me a book on the Ethiopian legend of it, and I read that book. Oh, I would have been definitely no older than 8th grade. I was still in elementary school. I mean, because the book that she got me on Aida was a picture book, and she wouldn't have done that if I'd been old enough to appreciate a, you know, like a chapter book. So I must have been pretty young. And I think it was the trumpets. Like if I had to say what it was, I think it was probably the trumpets. There's a lot of trumpets in Aida. And then I in college actually saw Aida performed in Baltimore with Placido Domingo. I did play an instrument growing up. We all had to take piano, and then I also in the school band played saxophone. So that's what I played. My brother played the trumpet. My sister played the clarinet. I don't play anything now, although I can still read music, and I did choir in high school. And I was in a couple musicals in high school as well. So I can still read music and whatnot. I'm not a particularly strong singer, so, but it's fun to be in a musical. All right, so I'm going to come back through and now put 3/8-inch tape along the edge of all of them. But I discovered Puccini in high school, I would say. That was when I first started listening to Puccini. And, you know, that's probably my... you know, for any one person who's made a bunch of stuff that I really, really appreciate, I would put him as probably my favorite, just by just how many of his things I like. You know, there's some people I've never really gotten into. Wagner is one of them. I've never really been able to get into Wagner, and I mean, there's stuff that I recognize as good, like that I think is powerful and interesting, is the Ride of the Valkyries, but I don't know if I want to listen to like 7 hours of that or whatever the ring cycle takes. am not very up on country music right now. I have been in the past. You know, I definitely went through a phase with it that I'm not currently keeping up with it. It's harder and harder to keep up with music now because the radio is not really a part of my life. So learning about new music, it got to the point where I was not learning about new music. So I started reading Pitchfork, just so I would, you know, have stuff to try. But I don't think they don't talk about country music a lot on that. You do. Absolutely. Do I listen to anything specific when I'm not live crafting? Let's see. Podcasts I listen to. Music, I use Google Play Music. We have a family account. I mainly did it because when I signed up, if you signed up for a Google Play Music family account, you got YouTube Red for free. So that means that for, you know, $15 a month, I pay, and I don't have commercials on YouTube, and I can listen to any music I want. And so can my sister, and so can Mr. Lifeguard. So we do that. Who do I listen to? I make stations based on people I like. So one thing you can do is you can say, I want to listen to music like this. So Rag and Bone Man, I like a lot. Recently, I've been trying to listen to more sort of alternative pop, like Walk the Moon, even Chainsmokers, although they're pretty mainstream now. Halsey. His name just like went out of my head. The Take Me to Hosier, the Take Me to Church guy. Who else? Baby Rayha. Sometimes hip hop. Sometimes old rock. So like, you know, Led Zeppelin, Queen. Who else? I mean, classic stuff. Kind of all over the map. I'll sit and listen to an opera every once in a while. I have some... Oh, yeah, definitely Journey, of course. I'm always rocking out to Journey, as you guys know. You know, I always even say to myself, like, when I'm trying to make a decision, what would Steve Perry do? That's just something I always ask myself, because of how important Journey is to my life. Yeah. Did that sound sincere? All right, so now on page, I'm going to remove the tape from page 2. I'm not going to remove the tape from page 1. Just from page 2. And then I'm going to hold page 2 so that the gutter and the page are in on one side and the flap is on the other. And then I'm going to fold page 1 so that I can't see the gutter. All right, so I want the flap and the gutter on that side. And then I stick them together. Score line to score line. Try and line them up on top of each other as straight as you can. And then burnish. And then open it so you can burnish right on that score line. And then you get this. All right, so now the page looks like this. So when we turn the page in the book, all right, so we've got this flap, and then we've got stuff for our pocket. We're going to turn the page. We've got this flap, and then room for photo and whatnot there. And then this page, This holds the stuff in the pocket, flip it, and we just keep going. The honey color grows on you because it has warmth. I think so too. I think I like the warmth of it. It's a nice color. It's nice for a baby because I think it's happy. And then we'll just keep going. Just like that. So remember when the sticky flap, you want the sticky flap all by itself. Right. And I just keep folding it so that I have just the edge of the page on this side. And then when I grab the next one, I have just the flap on the other side. So I fold them the opposite way from each other. And then I also have some just interesting, like I'm trying to find people that are new and interesting all the time. You know, new to me. They may be people that others have known about for a long time. Just to always kind of be experimenting. So I have a bunch of stuff where I make, I have a list called Listen Later, a playlist called Listen Later, where it's like, if I hear someone talk about music in a really positive way, but I don't know who they're talking about, I'll put their most popular song in my Listen Later list so that when I'm just sitting around, I want to listen to some music and I'm thinking, I don't know what to play, or I want to learn something new, then I'll listen to that list. That list helps me out a lot. All right, so I'm going to put these four aside and kind of do it in 3 blocks of 4 so that it doesn't get too big all at once. So now I'm going to stick I'm going to leave the tape on page 5 and I'm going to stick page 6 on the back of page 5. And then we'll attach this block to the first block. But by doing it like this, I can kind of keep them from getting too crazy. All right. And so then again, fold page 6 so that its edge is crisp and you don't see the gutter or anything. And then fold page 7 so that you see the flap, peel the tape, just keep going, just keep swimming. All right, and then that's 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to set 5, 6, 7, 8 aside as its own little block because it has 4 pages. And then we'll do this one. And I do it like this so that I found that if I do a spine all the way from page 1 to page 12, especially if there's 12 pages and not 6, that what can happen to me is that if I just start getting a little bit off, and I always will tend to get off in the same direction. So if I'm always putting the next page a little bit higher, and then the next one a little bit higher, and then the next one a little bit higher, in a 12-page book, between page 1 and page 12, a hair higher all the way across can make it as much as a 1/4 inch taller on the back cover than it is on the front. And what happens if I do that is that it twists. Okay, the spine will twist when you go to put it in your book. So you don't want that twist in the spine. So I recommend doing them in groups. That way you can adjust. So if they're all starting to get tall, you can put the groups lower and lower so that they stay, you want the first page and the last page to be the same height. All right. So this is a way that you can course correct and you can adjust. So that's why if you're wondering why I'm breaking them up, that's why I'm breaking them up. So, you know, I can then use these 3 blocks, and I will stick these 3 blocks together in such a way that I know that page 1 and page 12 are the same height. And that way the spine won't twist. And that makes a huge difference in your books. I mean, this is one of those tips this is very functional. This will make a huge difference in your books, especially in how long the books last, because if there's a twist in the spine, it puts a lot of extra strain on the spine that you just don't need. You know, your album does not need to have that. And the reason why it's a big deal, that twist, is because what will happen in that situation is that the decorative spine and the structural spine will be twisted and the decorative spine will not be. And so the covers will be in constant tension because of the twist in the structural spine being pulled between the decorative spine and the structural spine. So it is a big deal if they get off by as much as a 1/4 inch. Even anywhere between 1/8 to 1/4 inch, that's really a problem. It can be. It can be. It's not like it's the end of the world. You need to, whatever. I'm just saying don't do it if you can help it. And this is one way you can help it. And then let me just assure you, my pages are not perfectly straight every time. You know, they don't need to be perfectly straight. It's just a matter of, you know, how close. All right, so this is page 1 through 4. So I'm gonna, you know, spread it out so that, you know, I've got my last crisp. And then I'm gonna burnish this one and remove the tape. This is page 5. So what I do with this one is, all right, I want to make sure when I stick this down. Okay, so here you can see it. See, look at this. See it right here. See that curve? That's from me being off. So what I do is I'm going to put this one a little bit to the left to balance out. You know, I'm going to make sure that when I line it up, it's a little bit too higher so that we kind of straighten out. See, I do curvy spines too. I'm not perfect. Oh my gosh, look at this cute book. Ooh. All right, so now we're going to spread the whole thing out. All right, And you see how it starts to curve and then goes back. So up here, we're this corner right here is more in line with this corner. All right. I have another opportunity to correct that with this last piece. Oh, speaking of learning and stuff, did I tell you guys we watched a movie called The Professor and the Madman, which was about the writing of the Oxford English Dictionary? And I thought the way they wrote I had no idea how they wrote the Oxford English Dictionary. It never really was something I spent a lot of time pondering. But the way they did the research for it and got all of the textual examples, like uses of the words in sentences and things throughout the history of the English language, was fascinating. It was a social media project. It really was. The Oxford University Press, in the books that they published, they put a slip in the books that they sold, that they published and sold. They put a letter from the editor of the Oxford English Dictionary saying, if you come across a word, write its definition, where you saw it, and, you know, like the book, the year the book was written, etc., and then mail the slip of paper to us at where we're writing the dictionary. And that's how we'll get the uses of these words in books through the centuries. And they did that. People did it. People actually went through hundreds of years of English language works and sent in slips of paper with, it was like Wikipedia, sort of. It was a crowdsourced social media project. And that's how they got the, you know, millions of examples of how, because there are millions of examples of how the words were used in the original Oxford English Dictionary. You know, it has like 400 words in it, but it has like 1.8 million or 2, you know, something like that, uses of the words to show how the use of the word changed throughout history. And that's how they got all the uses. People went through their books and wrote them down and mailed them in. And then they collected them and they wrote the dictionary. Like, think about that. And they did this in the 19th century. That's how they wrote it. But it was crowdsourced. It was a social media project. Okay, so this is the last one. It's the same thing, only the sticky flap showing, the edge of the book showing, and then this just goes down. And this is how we attach it to the back cover. And the movie was called The Professor and the Madman because the largest contributor of slips to the Oxford English Dictionary project was a guy in an insane asylum. He was an American field surgeon in the Civil War, and he had PTSD and also, they think, schizophrenia, and he killed someone in London who he thought was someone who was like haunting him or something. Like, he had this idea, like, because they think of the schizophrenia, that he was being pursued by these people, and he thought that this guy who was just walking home from work was one of the people who was pursuing him. So in a fit of paranoid schizophrenia, he shot him and killed him. And so he was so clearly insane, they put him in an insane asylum. But because he was wealthy, he was able to have books, and he had gotten through college, medical school, Yale Medical School. He paid his way through Yale Medical School in the US he worked on the Yale dictionary. Yale wrote a dictionary around the same time, and he worked on the research for that. So the movie is about him, like, corresponding with the people writing the dictionary and all of that. And the movie is very dark. This guy is very crazy. He's got a lot of problems, and whatever. But we just thought that the part about writing the dictionary even was just so, like, again, I've just literally never thought. Yes, this is going to be in the archives, Deb. Yep. Literally never thought about how they wrote the Oxford English Dictionary before, but it was really interesting to see, like, how it all came about. Okay, now, but the reason we clicked on it is because we saw it in Amazon, The Professor and the Madman, and we saw that it starred Mel Gibson and Sean Penn. And Mr. Lifeguard said, you know, with any other two actors, you would probably know instantly who was the professor and who was the madman, but I couldn't tell you in this case. And I said, I know, I was just thinking the same thing. So that's why we clicked it, because we needed to know which one was it. The reviews for the movie are low, particularly critical reviews. I think that some of the issues with the movie are it's a little slow. I mean, it took 70 years to write this dictionary, so I get it. Like, the movie's a little slow. And also there's there's some, like, attempts at redemption arcs and things like that I don't think get resolved very well cinematically, but I think maybe that's because in real life they weren't resolved. You know what I mean? Like, so that, like, it doesn't make good cinema. Does that make sense? And that maybe a more competent director could have fixed that somehow, like, fixed how, like, you know. So I think that there are some issues with the film, but we just enjoyed learning about the dictionary and seeing where the contributions and things like that came from. Yeah, it is dark also. But yeah, we were surprised by how low the reviews were, because I'm not going to say it needs an Oscar or anything, but I don't think it's like a 3-star movie either. You know what I mean? So I don't know. The reviews didn't make sense to us. So I recommended it to my parents. You know, it's an interesting story, I think. And Sean Penn and Mel Gibson are good actors. And Ioan Griffin is in it. You might know him from... What would people know him from? He was in Horatio Hornblower, if you saw any of that on Masterpiece Theater. Yeah, so he's in it too. He's a great actor. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know why the reviews are so low. Like I said, it's not a perfect film. It has some problems, and I can totally see, like, from a critical standpoint, why there's stuff that if I was a movie critic, I wouldn't like. But if you want to learn about the Oxford English Dictionary and you think either Sean Penn or Mel Gibson or both of them are good actors, then go for it. All right, everyone. So I think this is where we're going to call it for today, because I've been going for 3 hours, I think, now. But this is how the book is, after 3 hours, this is what we've got. We've got these flaps ready to be decorated. I've got all my month cards on here. Another flap ready to be decorated. And we've got all 12 pages constructed and bound into the book. I mean, look at it. It's a fully functional book, and it's super fast and cute. Of course, you could just do 6 pages. I did 12 because it's for a baby's first year. So, and I had one card for each month. So that's why I did 12 pages. You certainly don't have to do 12 pages if you were just doing this for some other reason. But if you do need a super fast baby book, this paper collection, which is Hello Baby by Simple Stories, is available digitally. So you absolutely can use it in exactly this way if you want to. But yeah, this is, you know, and we'll decorate this more. We'll get this all fleshed out. Because I want to send it before December. You know what I mean? Because I want to send it when she can kind of think about how she wants to use it and make plans for it. So I don't want to like drop it on her in January when she's got a brand new baby. So I'm going to send it to her as soon as it's done, I think. And that'll be that. So, but thank you so much for joining me so far. We'll do another few videos in the series, you know, hopefully next week sometime. And of course, I'll be back here on Thursday at 2 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern USA time for more of the Haunted album, the Oh Boy version, the portrait version of the Have the Fun album. So thanks so much for joining me this Monday, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.